of Mozambique's adult population infected with HIV, this message has never been more pertinent. This report was produced by Jonathan Elliott for the United Nations.
International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
Good evening and welcome to Today on One. I'm Maggie for Siedo. In the news tonight, Swartboy foresees civil unrest due to shack demolitions. Baker's family could face criminal charges. Mental health initiative brings hope to learners who lost a loved one due to COVID-19. A boost in agricultural sector good for food security. And Roundup, Business on One, comments corners, sports and the weather. The Landless People's Movement has expressed its full support for individuals who have already taken possession of land and has warned that if the police utilize a court order to demolish the new shacks, it would spark a revolt. Leston Voller has more.
I can tell you that I am sensing if the police are to demolish those more than 5,000 dwellings that have been put up, I can tell you that we are edging closer to the Arab Spring type of revolt in this country. And as LPM, we will be at the forefront of such an initiative. Any political official who doesn't look at the epistemological, sociological and anthropological, historical and political and ideological perspectives of this issue is a dumb politician that will give instructions for police to go and demolish shacks. Any court that grants an order to police to go and demolish shacks is a court that does not understand the sociological, anthropological, historical, political, cultural, social and economic background of this country.
The Landless People's Movement LPM leader Bernardo Swartboy said that the council is not the one that has failed the people, but the SWAPO party that has ruled the country for 31 years.
And so therefore the question should not be today whether the city of Windhoek has failed. That's only a 20% of the question. The fundamental question is, which political party was in charge of the state of Namibia since independence that controlled the instruments of state and all the arms of state that could have and should have created the necessary framework, created the necessary regulations and the bylaws to make access for land and to land easier for our people. It was not AR that was in charge of this country for 31 years. It was not IBC. It was not PDM. It was not NUDO. It was not LPM. But only SWAPO party that should take the blame squarely. And if it is called a land grab, from whom have they grabbed this land over the past 2 weeks? Have they taken land from private owners? Have they invaded houses of others that have paid for those houses, that have mortgages on those houses? Have they taken possession and occupation of business premises? Have they taken possession of land that has been transferred on properties as properties of businesses? No, they haven't. The land that they are occupying, correctly so, is land that is state land, which they should have been given if the leadership of SWAPO party was sensitive and compassionate. And therefore, first, conceptually, what has transpired over the past 2-3 weeks in the city of Windhoek, as far as LPM is concerned, is not an illegal land grabbing, but it is a mere historic correction of land dispossession and landlessness, and a historic correction from below of many of the black people that have been denied land for many years across the length and breadth of this country. It is not illegal. Who defines that illegality? And if it's illegal, why are the police not enforcing it through court orders?
Inspector General Sebastian Daitunga of the Namibian Police Force NAMPOL has greater allegiance to foreigners than to Namibians, according to Swartboy.
We are also, of course, shocked, amused and disappointed by the fact that the Inspector General of the Namibian Police Force provides Chinese citizens with protection because of threats of terror, with taxpayers' money. And the same Inspector General of the Namibian Police, not of the Chinese police, but of the Namibian Police, goes to Namibian citizens to threaten them with violence. Look at the contrast. Head of the Namibian Police, meant to protect Namibians, goes out hard to protect Chinese citizens. But when it comes to Namibians, his language and tone is one of violence and threats of arrest and intimidation and harassment on matters of a basic right that any human being possesses. We must start to recognize that peace and tranquility and stability can vanish in a heartbeat because of institutions of democracy that are not delivering at the speed and on the scope and size that the people of Namibia have long waited for.
The Landless People's Movement has vowed to continue assisting individuals on the ground in Namibia who are looking for land.
Great combo deal from Choppies! Choppies, great value for your money.
The Beekers family could face criminal charges for forcefully re-entering the property from which they were evicted earlier this week, says lawyer Milton Engelbrecht. He said charges of housebreaking as well as trespassing can be laid against the family. Isai Sipunga has this report.
Milton Engelbrecht has advised his client Richard Hwaguseb, the new homeowner, to lay criminal charges against the Beekers family and Katutura Central Constituency Councillor Rodman Kachaimo.
The Katutura officer, the councillor, took it upon himself that said that he told them to move back into that particular house. I instruct today, by way of a letter to the Namibian police, to assist the messenger of the court to evict that particular person from that house. And I also advise my client to open a criminal charge, because what that councillor have done, it is wrong in law. What he should have done as a leader, and that is with respect, that he should have called upon all the parties involved in order to see how best this issue could have been resolved. But he's wrong in law, and his criminal charges can be laid against him, more particular that he obstruct a court order. That comes down to defeating. He have obstructed the messenger of the court in order to execute their work. Further criminal charges that basically happen is that, as one of the Beerker's family members have said, they broke into the house. That in itself, the charge that can be leveled there is housebreaking and trespassing.
Documents obtained from Engelbrecht show that the seller, Florida Beerkers, notified the occupants in October 2019 about the transaction and that they had to vacate the premises by November 31st, 2019. Engelbrecht says since his involvement in March 2020, he provided the occupants with a letter of demand explaining the sale of the house and that they had to vacate the property no later than March 23rd, 2020. After several engagements with Engelbrecht and the Beerkers' lawyers, a summoning letter was produced in May 2020 and presented to the occupants by the messenger of the court.
The messenger of the court is there in order to serve court documents issued by the court, and they cannot refuse the document or they cannot dispute whatever the contents of the document. If there's any dispute, the matter, or they should have approached the court. Nothing has been forthcoming. After the summons, we applied to court because they defend the matter through the lawyers. Then I, as the legal representative of the owner of the house, applied to the court for a warrant of ejectment. And then there was a court case. This court case was done or was being held on the 5th of May 2021. That was in open court, civil candidatura court, where there was also counsel for the Beerkers family. The court have ruled in our favor, and basically just to highlight there, the court grants the judgment order as prayed and for the cost on an attorney-owned client's scale, meaning that the court gave us the warrant of ejectment in order for them to be vacated from that particular house.
The issue lies between Florida and the rest of the Beerkers family, not with his client, says Engelbrecht.
What was also disturbing, and the sweeping statements have been made, especially since the first warrant of ejectment, is where people have made statements. The question is not for my client. Who was involved in the transaction? What the Beerkers family have decided, from the estate of the late mother to one of the sisters who was the owner of the house, and then the house to be donated to the seller. That is not our fight, and we are not part and parcel of that fight. That issue must be resolved amongst themselves.
One option remains for the Beerkers family, says Engelbrecht, and that's to appeal the judgment of the lower court to the High Court for a judge to decide whether or not the eviction was lawful. He says he's willing to engage the family on the matter.
Are you a CMS member? With HospiCash 100, you can get up to 100,000 Namibian dollars cover with a 30,000 limit per event from as little as 100 Namibian dollars a month. We understand that being in hospital can be stressful. That is why with HospiCash 100, you can cover your non-medical expenses by receiving cash payouts when you are in hospital, so you can recover stress-free. Interested? SMS your name and HospiCash to 555 and we will call you back.
The IUM, SRC and other universities, spearheaded by Bernard Kaval, have embarked on a mental health initiative that is mostly targeted for school learners who have lost their parents and or relatives due to COVID-19. The initiative was launched at the AI Steenkamp Primary School in the capital. Hendrina Kanyolo has this report.
As schools reopened and many Namibians are still getting to terms with the COVID-19 pandemic, IUM SRCs deemed it necessary to launch an initiative that focuses on learners' mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. They say in the midst of all the chaos, school learners are being mentally affected by the situation, although at times no one tends to their needs as many voices are not heard.
What I would like you to know is that all of us eventually, it's not that it's an easy thing that you lose that person. You would always ask yourself a question, why do they have to go at this time? You know, they were young or they were old. I mean, there's always that question of why. Okay, sometimes we can answer the question why, but I believe that we all have to look up to God so that, you know, He understands better. Okay, I know that as for the students, you're very young and you don't understand death, but eventually as you grow up, you would understand, okay, that at some point in life, something might affect somebody's health and that particular person might fight it and might end up not fighting it maybe well or something like that, and then, you know, they leave. Okay, but I want you all as students, the ones that are sitting here this morning, it's not God's plan to take away your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister away from you. Okay, I want you to understand that. And what I want you to avoid is isolation. Okay, you have a very beautiful mom here. Okay, so if you feel that you are sad, that you are angry, okay, that you are asking why, please just go to her. She will comfort you, she will speak to you, she will make sure that, you know, you don't get into isolation. Now, in isolation, I mean that when you begin to be by yourself, okay, you are angry that why did mom had to die, why did dad had to die, why did my brother had to die, he was so young or she was so young, why? Now, for you to be comforted, okay, for you to, you know, pass through that stage of what we call bereavement, because you have been deprived of being able to be with that person for a long time, is that just, you know, make your way to your mom. Okay, guys?
The school's principal said that this is a very good initiative at this time, as many are losing their loved ones almost each day, and kids are affected too by losing their parents or siblings, and they do not have many people to comfort them due to the social distancing.
One of our colleagues, Mr. Lysius Mukunda, was the only educator at our school who also passed away on the 16th of June due to COVID. It's a COVID-related death. So having you today here with this idea and thoughts, we are consoled, and it's comforting for us having you here today. Mental health of children, actually, it's not put under a magnifying glass. I just said something I want to say, that as we resume with our classes, I want to share my thoughts as a principal, what we have experienced. You know, the first thing as educators and as children, what we learned to see was that schools are different. It looks different. Nothing is the same anymore. Whether it's face-to-face classes, whether it's virtual classes. We also know that we are plagued with uncertainty and also safety concerns. We also know that we are all heartbroken. We are sad. And we also know that we are also mourning the death of loved ones. We wish for our fears not to become a reality. What we experience is that we cannot find solace and comfort in each other's presence due to social distance. People are far away. even though you need them more now than ever. We also know that these beloved learners sitting here, they cannot see their smile. I cannot see their smile. Even though we wish to smile, we wish to hug each other. We feel so alone in the presence of a crowd due to this deadly consequences of the pandemic. We know that we are left with so many unanswered questions. We are much appreciative of the recognition and acknowledgement of the fact that our young people need us more than ever now. Therefore, this is just a stepping stone, I believe, to urge also the educators and also the young leaders, the school counselors, the administrators, even the parents, not to lose hope.
The IUM SRC president said that many children have lost their parents, which is leading to mental health issues and disrupting of their lives.
So this virus is very serious and has caused big impact in many Namibian lives. Many people lost their loved ones, children, and many young Namibians have lost their parents and guidance as a result of causing traumas and frustration to their lives, to the lives of these children. This has ringed the bell to us, the SLCs and the team called Mental Health, for us to decide to extend our hands to reach out to some of the needy students where we can, possibly. Our main focus is in our local schools. As it happens, the most of the learners in our local schools have lost their teachers, also their parents and guidance at home. One could imagine the trauma, stress, fear, and frustration this might lead them. Therefore, today we decide to give few donations to Steenkamp Primary School, not as the only school with learners in need or facing these challenges, but there are many of our local schools which are also facing the same challenges.
The learners received washing powder, toothpaste, toothbrushes and pads. They also received soup for the day, and the team say this is only the beginning as they plan on giving more to the learners.
The agricultural sector recorded a slight decline in the last few months in the face of challenges such as the locust outbreak and foot-and-mouth disease. The size of the sector grew by 800 million Namibia dollars in nominal terms, which is a significant contribution towards the national aspirations on food security.
Locust outbreak destroyed many fields, and restrictions on movement due to the foot-and-mouth disease meant many farmers were not able to get livestock to the market. The sector declined only by 5.4% in real value added this quarter compared to 11.5% registered at the beginning of 2020.
What it means is that the decline that we are seeing now is less compared to the decline that we saw the same time last year. And this is mainly because of the promising weather that we have experienced on the few quarters towards the release of the data that we are seeing. That should really give us some comforting atmosphere. Unfortunately, the agriculture sector is one sector that is only good on one end, and on the other end, it's not good. What we are talking about is in terms of employment. Agriculture sector is the one that employs the majority of people, both formally and informally. So if it performs well, the jobs in this sector is secured. But in terms of value addition, we know our manufacturing sector is very, very small. So the value addition from the agricultural product remains low. And also in terms of the consumer confidence, there is no buying power to actually support the agricultural product. But if the weather persists, and we know the erratic nature of Namibian weather or climate, it can change overnight. And so to really bank your money on a sector that relies on a factor that you have no control of, quite somehow a risk. But if we compare the two data sets, yes, there has been an improvement and it can be something to talk about on one hand, but on the other hand, again, it leaves much to be desired.
This is a key sector for the economy, not only because it is the largest employer, but also because of food security, which is a priority area for the government.
If we tie the agriculture sector to some of the national aspiration plans like your NDPs, your Harambe, you can see that the Zero Hunger initiative rests upon the agriculture sector. And for government to really achieve that, the agriculture sector must perform. But we must also be cognizant of the fact that in as much as this is our cash cow in terms of having a sector that is resilient, this sector has faced quite a number of challenges. The locust you mentioned, the foot and mouth disease. Right now there's a national debate on the red line. The implication of this discussion can be felt even as we speak, because the number of cattle marketed outside the country, number of cattle marketed within the country rests upon the arrangement that exists. So if you put all these challenges together, definitely it can have a dampening effect on the sector. But to come to your question, the agriculture sector is quite a strategic sector because not only does it provide economic security, it goes down to the very basic way it provides food security. Even if you lose your job, if you have a farm, even if you lose your job, if you have a field, your food security is secured. And that is paramount for government that has to deal with the issue of poverty and inequality in a country like Namibia. So definitely, it boils down again to the fact that in as much as it does not have economic value compared to the diamond processing and these other sectors, it is one of the sectors that is cutting across and is right at the grassroots from where government can begin to implement whatever policies and initiatives to alleviate poverty and inequality in the country.
According to the figures from the Namibia Statistics Agency, subsectors such as live cattle exports to neighboring Angola and South Africa have dropped by nearly half.
In other leading stories, the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia, CRAN, has announced the outcome of the radio frequency spectrum auction, which closed on 11 June 2021. Emilia Nikembwa, Chief Executive Officer of CRAN, says the authority made a decision to assign 2 times 5 megahertz in the spectrum band 880-915 megahertz paired with 925-960 megahertz to Mobile Telecommunications Limited. Nikembwa says the license will improve congestion in urban areas caused by the increase in network utilization due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The award for the provision of broadband services with a minimum downlink data speed of no less than 2 megabytes per second, subject to rollout obligations imposed as license conditions. Adding that CREN, in consultation with the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, identified 25 schools in remote rural areas with either no service or only 2G mobile services to be provided with broadband services by MTC as part of the rollout obligations. The obligations are situated in Kavango East and West, Karas, Kunene, Hardap, Irongo, and Omaheke regions. The spectrum license will be used to further governmental policy objectives set out in the National Broadband Policy, which provides that 80% of schools are to be provided with broadband infrastructure and services by 2020-2021 and increase to 95% by 2021-2022. The award is also aligned with objectives of the Harambe Prosperity Plan 2, which calls for rollout of information and communications technology infrastructure to improve national and population coverage.
And welcome to the She Word, the show where we discuss trending topics amongst women across Africa.
Girl, 7 years old.
Do you know why you're here?
In 1997, I was filmed by an American news crew at the place I was being held, a shrine run by a priest dedicated to the worship of deities. I was labeled a Trikoshi, a wife of the gods, paying for a crime committed by a family member.
The purpose of sharing my story was to say, you know, you may have gone through something, a traumatic experience. You are still able to have life. You have life. You can live life. You can contribute to society, and that's what it should be about. It's not more. It's not really about like victimizing because I honestly don't like watching it.
Joseph Shufeni is standing by for today's edition of Business on One and Economic Indicators.
Thank you for joining me for today's edition of Business on One. I'm your host, Joseph Shufeni. The Business and Intellectual Property Authority, BIPA, has recently announced that businesses that have submitted annual returns and paid duties now qualify for a good standing certificate that will allow them to participate in national tender processes. The authority says the certificate will be a requirement by all public entities in the near future. In efforts to improve service delivery and educate the public when it comes to compliance on submitting a yearly return and making payments on annual duties, BIPA launched the Good Standing Makes Good Business campaign.
The campaign's objective is really to push awareness about compliance with business entities or registered business entities. There is a period in which business entities can now come to BIPA to request that they pay off their outstanding annual duties, and once they have done that, we will issue a good standing certificate. So BIPA started issuing this good standing certificate in the beginning of this year. So we also have great competitions. The public can follow us on social media, or on radio and other media platforms. We're also giving away 3 Hisense smart TVs over the next 3 to 4 months. We're giving away personal development books that are business and entrepreneurship related, really for those that come to the front and say, you know what, I'm going to get paid up, I want to stand a chance to be part of this great initiative.
The Executive for Marketing, Corporate Communications and Client Management Services said in this regard, entities that are paid up will receive a certificate of good standing, allowing them to benefit from national economic opportunities in the form of procurement bids.
That is also one of the reasons why we're pushing for this campaign now, so that these entities that are not paid up, that are not in good standing, can participate in these national opportunities, because times are really tough. And also for that same purpose, we have said that, you know what, we can now be understanding that businesses have had it tough for this last year and a half. We are amenable to the fact that we want to give businesses a period in which they can pay off their annual duties. So let me make an example, if I owe BIPA $1,000 and I'm not able to pay it off immediately, you can come to us. We have a flexible repayment terms of between 3 and 6 months, and we can tell you, you know what, if you can sign something that will say that you pay off this amount within 3 or 6 months, then you will qualify for that good standing certificate. Companies or other entities that are users of this good standing certificate can also validate it now on our website. By simply going to our website, there is a list of entities that are in good standing with BIPA, and it makes it easier for entities to validate this good standing certificate and see, of course, business A or business B is indeed in good standing.
Other organizations such as the Social Security Commission, the National Equity Commission, as well as the Ministry of Finance also issue good standing certificates. The payment of annual duties and submission of returns is a legal requirement and applies to all closed corporations and companies. And that is all we have for you. Be sure to join us again next time, and don't forget to follow us on our social media pages.
New Nivea Black and White Deo protects me and my favorite outfit. That's why I feel confident and free. With 5 times Deo Action formula, I stay fresh and protected for 48 hours, and my clothes stay stain-free. Try SA's #1 anti-stain Deo.
Time now for Comments Corner, your daily dose of comments from our hottest social media pages. 5 male suspects were apprehended for allegedly stealing a container with goods worth thousands of dollars. The 5 suspects recently appeared in court. Comrade B says he went through the same situation last year. Mayanga wants to know how they have managed to steal something so big. Martha says lack of jobs lead to crime. Susanna and Antolika commended law enforcement for a job well done. Helena says people are hungry. Nonge says people are committing such crimes because of unemployment. While Natasha asked how will the public know what items not to buy on the street, as she won't know whether it is stolen or not. That is all from Comments Corner. Be sure to post your comments on our social media pages for broadcast only on Today on 1.
Early this morning, woke up holding my head, hearing my heartbeat all night long. Shades of this motel keeping me in bed, reading the news, just trying to stay strong. I need to just get up, take a deep breath, keep it together, 'cause it's a beautiful day. Sun on my face, feeling okay. Don't let it get away. It's a beautiful day. Feel so proud, screaming out loud. It's a beautiful day. Beautiful day. Feel so proud, screaming out loud. It's a beautiful day.
Time now for today's sports update with Chairo Musiandaka.
Welcome to Sports on 1, I'm Chairo Musiandaka. Namibian teenage sprinters Christine Bomba and Beatrice Masilingi were dealt a blow 2 weeks before their Olympic dream debut, that they were excluded from the 400 track race, which is their favorite event, due to alleged high natural testosterone levels. Upon their arrival back from the Olympics, the Minister of Sports and Youth and National Services confirmed that the Line Ministry has started consultations with the relevant authorities on this issue. Castro Lumbu has more on this.
The Namibian nation was recently hit with news that the sensational golden teenage girls Christine Boma and Beatrice Masilingi will not be allowed to compete in the 400-meter track race event, in which they have been excelling on the international stage by breaking record after record due to allegedly high natural testosterone levels, according to World Athletics track and field rules. Christine and Beatrice were then registered to compete in the 200-meter track race event, which they are eligible to participate in. At the event, both Christine and Beatrice produced exceptional performances by going through to the 200-meter heats on course to the finals. Christine went on to finish second ahead of Jamaican 7-time Olympic gold medalist Shirley Ann Fraser-Pryce and America's Gabrielle Thomas to take the silver medal, as well as breaking the 200-meter world under-20 record in a time of 21.81 seconds. Her countrymate Beatrice Masilingi finished 6th in the star-studded race, but recorded her new personal best, as well as running the third best time of all women under the age of 19 years. These exceptional performances from the Namibian teenage sensation caused havoc as it opened the intersex debate in the 200-meter track race event, as some suggesting World Athletics relook to add the event as prohibited for athletes with difference in sex development. The Line Ministry, together with Namibia sports athletics bodies, were inundated by the public on what steps they will take on this issue. At a recent welcoming event of the athletes, the Minister of Sport, Youth and National Service gave their stance on the issue.
We have started. We already had a meeting with the Ministry of Sport and what of South Africa, because they already had, went that route, and we didn't want to start afresh something which our neighbors are already busy with. So we had a meeting with them. We were just waiting for the Olympic leadership to come back, that is now the President and the Secretary General, so on, so that we can, because even if we want as government to do whatever, what we so far have done is at the UN level, we already made our statement through our Minister of International Relations, and is it Mr. Dr. Penda on the other side. We at the UN level, because there was a UN meeting just after that, and we made our statement there. Then we had our meeting already, as I said, with the Minister of Sport of South Africa to see how far they have come, because you Caster Semenya issue, they have already traveled that route. So we didn't want to start. So we asked them how far, what have they done, what, and all those things. We are just waiting for President and Secretary General of Olympic to come back, because they must now. We are not Olympics. And you see, it's and everything have their international lines. If we as a government just right now, they will ask, who the hell are these people? They only know they are people in the NNOC. So they must now write to us. What we want is the request for the legal representatives and the request for medical. Because medical, we must go medical, and we must go legal while we are pursuing our political path.
Jamaica's 7-time Olympic medalist Shirley Ann Fraser-Pryce, who finished 4th behind America's Gabrielle Thomas, Namibia's teenager Christine Boma, and fellow countrywoman Elaine Thompson-Herah taking gold, recently sympathized and defended the two Namibian teenage sensations, quoted from the Sydney Morning Herald that the teenagers deserved glory in Tokyo. After returning home from Japan, Boma and Masilingi are now preparing to participate at the 2020 Under-20 World Athletics Championships in Kenya, Nairobi this month, where they will lead a team of 6 selected by Athletics Namibia. Christine Boma will compete in the 200-meter and 4x100-meter relays, and Beatrice Masilingi will compete in the 100-meter, 200-meter, and 4x100-meter relay events.
That's all we have for you today. And don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. Back to you, Maggie.
Thanks a lot, Charo, for keeping us updated on the latest in sports. Time now for the weather forecast.
Time now for the weather forecast. The interior will be very cold at first over the southern, central and eastern regions, otherwise sunny and mild to warm, but hot in the north. It will be windy over the interior. The coast will be partly cloudy and mild to warm, with fog patches over the central and northern coast, and wind will be moderate northwesterly to southwesterly. Now let's look at the minimum and maximum temperatures across the country and beyond.
That is all we have for you. Join us again for a repeat at 9:30 and the Omnibus Saturdays from 9 to 2. Till next time, from me, Maggie for Seattle, it's good night.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
Prevention is important. Help prevent the spread of illness and keep yourself and others well. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways of preventing the spread of germs. Wash your hands regularly with soap and hot water, scrubbing your hands thoroughly for at least 20 seconds. Hand sanitizers can be used but are not recommended as a substitute for hand washing. Use sanitizers in addition to hand washing or in a situation where soap and water are not available. To avoid spreading germs, limit sharing of personal items such as utensils, cups, and dishes. Your skin acts as a barrier to germs, but your eyes, nose, and mouth are more vulnerable. Wash your hands thoroughly before touching your face, eating, or drinking. Avoid physical contact with others, including handshakes, fist bumps, high fives, hugs, and kisses. Social distancing is deliberately increasing the physical space between people to avoid spreading germs. While regulations may vary by country or area, the best guideline for social distancing is to maintain a distance of 6 feet from others. Germs can travel through the air from one person to another. If you sneeze or cough, do so into a tissue or the inside of your elbow to prevent the spread of germs. Avoid contact with ill individuals and insist they isolate themselves until they have recovered and are symptom-free. Clean and sanitize frequently touched common surfaces and high-traffic areas in your home and workplace several times a day. Share these guidelines with others and help prevent the spread of illness and maintain a healthy environment. An ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure.
What's up, world? This is Shay, the goddess of the airwaves, on 99 FM, Monday to Friday, serving you breakfast on the ignition between 6 and 9. We brought you to be inspired, taking you to master your destiny. Now it's time to do the work.
Just show up. Put on your work boots and do the time.
Make it, and then make it better.
Hello world, it's your boy Script here on The Kingdom, where we're reminding you every single day.
Get up. You've got this. Start where you are.
Hey, this is your girl Treza on Hitsville on 99 FM, letting you know it's okay.
Try.
Make mistakes.
Awesome.
I am Sibo, and I'm going to be with you for quite a while. Thank you so much for joining us here on your inspiration station, where we let you know
there's no easy money, there's no easy job, there's no easy life.
99 FM. Do the work.
We know the world is a crazy place right now, but don't panic. Take a breath, slow down, or better yet, stop completely. We'll still be here when everything settles down. In this time of uncertainty, look to nature. She has all the answers, you know. We're not only giving ourselves time to reset, we're giving nature time to restore, revive, restart. We're saving ourselves and we're saving the world. Stay home now so that we can welcome you to Namibia again soon. Yes, the world's a crazy place right now, but don't despair. Find the joy, cherish hope, breathe. Take a moment, take a few, And someday soon you'll once again be able to stay in wonder at this magnificent view. The world's a crazy place right now, but don't worry, we'll still be here. We'll see you again soon.
In a corner of southern Africa lies a vast and sparse land, where endless horizons, dramatic scenery, and untouched wilderness abound. "1,500 kilometers of harsh desert coastline, a mosaic of biodiversity, sub-Saharan savanna, acacia bushland, encased by 2 deserts. Home to wildlife and wilderness abundant, yet ever at risk. This is Namibia, home to some of the most noteworthy conservation success stories across the globe. Initiatives forged, manned, and driven by passionate individuals and groups.
People are busy there walking for more than 45 kilometers a day.
Special species and wild locations under constant threat from an increasingly destructive developing world.
One of the world's true survivors.
This is the story of the Namibian wilderness, the stories of the enigmatic wildlife and natural wonders of her realm.
They are not a threat to anyone, if you understand them.
This is the story of those determined to preserve it, and thereby themselves.
Don't think I want to tell my children one day that we had rhinos in Namibia. I want to show them live rhinos.
This is the story of the last defenders.
We have been tracked them for about 7 days, and on the 7th day, we come across the butchers, and there was a shooting. We are not armed. We having a camera and GPS, we are just hiding behind the bushes. If I don't protect this species, who's going to do that? So it's that why I sacrificed my life to go on conserve the rhinos.
Armed out in the field with basically a notebook against poachers that are armed with highly dangerous weapons and more. How is this an equal fight?
I started right on the ground as a tracker, and I worked all the way up to be the CEO now, and I know how hard it is. It's commitment and dedication and the patience that you have for the animal. It's really hard. It's like you had something in your house that you are protecting for so long, and when you go away from home, somebody comes and kills you.
Scientists are racing to find a COVID-19 vaccine. Creating a vaccine usually takes years, sometimes even decades. More than 150 vaccine candidates are being developed worldwide. Some of the trials furthest ahead have produced encouraging results. Several possible vaccines appear to have produced an immune response with antibodies, T cells, and no serious side effects. Antibodies are protective proteins that fight infections in the body. Some T cells kill infected cells. Others help B cells to make the right antibodies to fight a virus. It's uncertain how long immunity to COVID-19 would last. 6 other human coronaviruses have been known about for years. Natural immunity for the most common 4 is quite short-lived and generally lasts a few years. A COVID-19 vaccine could require booster jabs after years or even months. Scientists are using a variety of methods to make a vaccine. Several human trials are creating vaccines using the genetic code of the virus. Other human trials, and some with animals, are trying more traditional methods, such as using a weakened or inactive virus. This variety might lead to more than one type of vaccine. Having several could actually be very useful, as each one may be more effective among different people. Despite the promising progress, it's not guaranteed an effective and reliable vaccine will be found. If there isn't one, the virus might eventually infect everyone. Some scientists are hoping to have a vaccine ready for limited use before the end of this year, but most are predicting mid-2021. Once regulators have approved a vaccine, billions of doses will have to be made. Then there's the tricky task of distributing and administering it on a global scale. Collaboration will be needed so the poorest don't miss out. Health workers could be at the front of the queue to get it, but who should be next in line?
Now in its 6th year, the Syrian conflict has impacted heavily on the most vulnerable. More than 2 million children were forced to leave their homes. After 3 weeks at Idemeni, a waterlogged camp in northern Greece, Mohammed Al-Khalil and his family of 4 are desperate to relocate.
حياة صعبة هون، خيم ومطر وبرد وحمام ما في وأمراض ونحن بكل الأحوال ندور مكان يعني آمن فلقينا المنظمة هاي الأمم المتحدة حل بالنسبة لنا، لأن احنا ندور الأمان وندور مشان أطفالنا، مشان ننسى الأيام اللي مرت علينا ونتأمل إن شاء الله خير يعني.
But for single mothers like Nisreen Chico, who is stuck at the border shared by Greece and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, the wait has led to desperation. Her husband was killed by a bomb in Aleppo 3 years ago. These days, she's consumed with protecting her 5 children.
حاسة إنه كثير صعب أنا أولادي نعيش هون. ما فيني أتحمل، ما في يعني صار لي 10 أيام هون ولا يوم نمت برياحة. هن بيناموا أنا لا.
Nisreen is not alone. Narin worries about her 2-month-old baby, Delberin, who has contracted a lung infection. She's unsure whether he'll survive.
في معه مرض فيروس، في معه التهابات، ما بعرف حرارة، في معه سهل تراجع. خدنا على المستشفى صار 14 هون أنا. امبارح جيت على أساس ما في شيء، جيت لهون كمان نفس الشيء. أولادي كلهم هذول كلهم مرضانين.
UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, is providing shelter for the thousands of children and their families trapped here. But it's not enough.
A lot of families with young children have spent weeks, night after night, in the rain, in the cold, under the open sky. The small tents that they have had are not good. It's not proper shelter.
Keeping the children warm is a priority. The refugees burn anything in sight just to keep the cold away and avoid hypothermia. Meanwhile, back in the camp at Idemeni, Mohammed, his family and other refugees make the journey to a nearby hotel, the first stop in the relocation process. For this family, at least, the possibility of a new life is beginning. But unfortunately, for far too many others, life has become hopeless. And as long as the brutal war in Syria goes on, it's unlikely that any of these children will see their birthplace in the foreseeable future. This report was produced by Mary Ferreira for the United Nations.